Hi, my name is Katie Schuler. I'm a marketing program specialist here at Time4Learning. I'm also a longtime homeschooling mom. My oldest son, Bailey, used Time4Learning from second grade all the way through high school, and he graduated from our homeschool in 2017. My youngest son, Braden, has been thriving with Time4Learning since preschool, and he's currently in 11th grade. Today, I have Nikki joining me. She is a parent and tutor from South Florida who is currently homeschooling her two children using Time4Learning. Nikki also uses Time4Learning with students enrolled in her tutoring program. She's volunteered to share her family's homeschooling story and provide some helpful advice for other parents and guardians. If you enjoy this interview, please subscribe to our channel and like us on social media to see more fun episodes of Tales from the Homeschool Front. Hi, thanks for joining us, Nikki. We're really excited to have you here. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. So to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you're homeschooling?
Awesome. It's nice to be here. So currently I am homeschooling my two daughters as well as other students. I do run a business in regards to tutoring and private homeschooling. So homeschooling is something that I started in March when COVID hit. It's something I wanted to do for a while. I just didn't really have the ability or the opportunity at that time. So that's when I really started kind of delving into exactly what I was going to do in that moment. And that's what we just decided.
A lot of parents, an almost immeasurable number at this point, have made the same decision. It's definitely difficult, but it was such a mess then. And, things continued to kind of be wacky, to say the least, throughout the start of the new school year and even now. So a lot of parents have been where you are. So
Right.
you said that you run a tutoring business. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and how long you've been in business?
Yes, of course. So we're called Elite Tutoring Specialists. And this tutoring business started about 3 years ago when I left public school teaching. And I did it on the side for a little while, just in terms of like Skype, FaceTime, maybe go to a couple houses. And then when COVID hit, which we were talking about before, and I had to make a decision for my two daughters, I decided to pull them out and homeschool them. And when I did that, I got an opportunity to kind of move the business a step farther and bring it into an actual private facility, which is what I was looking to do. I didn't expect to do it so quick, but when the opportunity came, I had to take it. So I did. And it's been amazing. And I went from just tutoring to literally private homeschool facility. We're like a private school just for homeschoolers at this point. So it's been great because, and especially finding all the parents that kind of were in the same boat that I was and not wanting to send them back to hybrid courses or, sitting in a class all day with a mask or sitting 6 feet away from their students all day or their peer mates. I mean, it was just something I didn't want. And so it's been really, really great. And especially with the Time4Learning program, it's made it even easier because being able to store all their records without having to keep like paper and different things is just been phenomenal. It makes my job easier and it's just a million times better.
Nice. I'm a homeschool parent and I just have one left at home. And I rely so much on the Time4Learning reporting for my own record keeping. So
That's great.
I can imagine the convenience of having something like that for multiple students. So you use Time4Learning both with your homeschool children and in your tutoring business, correct?
Yes.
How did you discover Time4Learning?
When I was back doing my tutoring business, I was really looking for something that would kind of be an add-on to be able to pull from. So I wanted the kids I was tutoring to have something to go to that where they could, that the parents didn't have to spend this insane amount of money to give them that extra supplemental information, but at the same time wanted to make it interesting. So I started to do a lot of research. And when I found Time4Learning and looked at the samples, I was like, wow, this looks really great. And then for it being as cheap as it is too every month, I was like, whoa, like this can't be real. And when I went on and I started using it, and then I had some kids too. That's when I picked up some actual homeschoolers, and I was kind of like their teacher, but it was also just kind of homeschooling. And that's when they started to use the program full time. And I got to see a lot more of it with them. And I was like, wow, this is really phenomenal. And so I just stayed with it, and I used it as much as possible whenever I could. And I would tell parents about it and like, hey, listen, you want to get on this because it's really cheap and it's really good. So if you want to give them that extra, this is great. And we'll go through this. So almost, I can't even tell you how many people I have put on Time for Learning. It's been
Nice.
insane. Like, but every single one that goes on, it loves it. Never had a complaint ever.
That's wonderful to hear. So you talked a little bit about my next question, but you can kind of maybe reiterate or elaborate more if you'd like. So what is the main reason or feature that originally motivated you to suggest this platform to the parents of your students? So you talked about affordability and the convenience of your record keeping.
Yes.
Are there any other features that kind of really kind of propelled you in that recommendation?
Yeah. I mean, outside of those, which are already like a big plus, I like how interactive that the curriculum is. That's it's one of the hard aspects when you're, especially as a homeschool facility, when dealing with homeschoolers, it's very difficult to keep them engaged. In school, when they're sitting around 26, 27 other kids, whatever it is, it's a little different because everyone is in there and you're kind of like, you don't necessarily have a choice. In a homeschool facility, it's a lot more lax. So, instead of 7 hours a day of work, we do about 2, so like, it's just more condensed and we don't do unnecessary stuff, like it's just, let's get our stuff done and let's go have fun. So those kind of things are just really what pulled me to it. So I can plan for them. So like when a parent says, okay, I need this amount of time, or I know as the teacher, they have from this time, or they come in late, maybe like I've had kids that came December and I was like, all right, well, you have till August. So we're going to make you a plan and we're going to put it from December to August to make sure that you have everything you need within that time frame. I love that you can choose the material that you want to use instead of having to do everything. I love that the parent has, or like, in this case, me as a teacher, has so much control over the material that you can place. And then also what you like, if they want to skip something that you want to, I can set every limit on there in terms of, all right, I need a 70% is a passing grade, or, and I can set all of that. And then I just do it. Like, so the parents in my case, they create it, they give me the login and I handle it all. That's just what I do here. So, but it's great because it gives that individualized learning, which is what I'm all about here. It's the whole point of opening this is because I was a teacher and everyone does not learn the same way.
Yeah,
and you can't teach them that way. So
absolutely agree. That's one of the best things. I'm sure I'll come back to that individualized learning because that's so important. Do you have any tips that you can share on how to use Time for Learning to help gauge where children are in their learning and how to customize instruction based on skill sets and interests? So this one would be, if you have someone who maybe came in from public school or came in from a different curriculum, do you have any tips that you can share with parents who are just getting started with Time for Learning, especially right now being in the middle of the year, of how they can use the curriculum to gauge where their kids are at?
So in general, it's really good. Like when I have a kid that comes in the middle of the year, I explain to parents that it's best to stick them in the grade that they're in just to make sure, because you don't know what they've got, what they received, what they've learned. And at least I know with the program that you guys have the basics. And I know that if they can go through and they see the sections and they're like, all right, well, I already know this. And they can kind of go through that and decide for themselves at that point, or I can look at it and say, okay, well, you're past this, or, whatever it is. In terms of actually like gauging where they are, I tend to go with the numbers, so if they're going through some of the curriculum and they're like, I'm stuck, I don't know what this is, or this is too easy, which has happened, then I just use my knowledge and my experience to kind of figure that out. Okay. I will say the biggest thing I see is for like the kindergarten and preschool age. I do always say like the program is one of the most phenomenal that I have found. However, you can't expect it to do everything, especially in the reading area for the young ones. So you have to supplement with other things. It does a really great job, better than anything I found, but it's not a fix-all, so you have to still supplement, especially for reading for like kindergarten, first grade, second. Make sure you're reading books outside, things like that. And that gauges a little more and kind of helps you determine exactly where they are per se.
And that's a good tip too.
Great. Yeah.
Especially with reading, we often tell people reading is integrated throughout Time for Learning language arts, phonics, phonetic
Right.
awareness, fluency. So we do have that. But outside of that, it's so important for parents to continue that independent reading at home. Do lots of read alouds, sound out
Right.
words. I know a lot of parents use the finger follow method where they can, they read and they kind of underline the words that they're reading with their students. So they have that sight sound coordination. So that's a good tip.
Yes.
Do you use and I think that you do, you spoke about the planner. So do you use our activity planner and or automated reporting to help you pull learning levers, so to speak, to meet students where they are? So if they are a little more advanced or behind, do you use our planner to make plans according to where they are? Or do you use the reporting to look at progress and scores to see if they're struggling in something?
I use both. So I use the activity planner. All of the kids are, the planner is one of the biggest things I love about it because it does it all for you. Like you just put in your dates and what you want and check it and boom, there you go. There's the amount of activities every week, and my students know when they come in, they're like, I have till Friday to get this done, And so I love that because then they know, and I'm like, hey, you get it done by Wednesday, you got 2 free days. Good for you, and that's something for them to look forward to. And it's an incentive. So it's great. I love it. And then in terms of the reporting, that is what I use to really see if they're getting it or not, because sometimes they're not honest. They're still children. So when it happens and, oh yeah, I know I was fine. And then I go in and I see, no, you weren't fine. You had a 50 or a 40, and then looking at that and going, okay, listen, I can see this really, you didn't understand this. Let's go back. And then I can go back and I can, redo the lessons with them or reassign them. So I love it. Like there's not one thing that I haven't been able to do. Let's put it that way, that I wanted to do.
Nice.
At all.
So when you see that they're struggling, I feel like I know that you know this, but I'm going to ask you for those who may watch who aren't aware of it. So outside of the reporting that gives you an idea of if there is a struggle with a certain topic or concept, do you ever use the ability, so up to K through 8, students have access to a grade below and above their place grade in their student dashboard. So let's say that they're cruising right along in 5th grade math and they hit fractions and they're struggling with it. Do you ever allow them to bump down to 4th grade to kind of get reintroduced to a fraction topic, or do you just kind of really try to stick with that 5th grade level? And I know that the convenience of being able to redo an activity is really important. So if they're not focused or they're just not having the best day, they can retake activities and quizzes as often as they need. But do you ever kind of use that flexibility as far as the grade above or below?
If I really needed to, I would. I haven't had to at this point. What is nice is I have because I have a teacher background and I have a secondary education, which gives me everything, in terms of kindergarten through 12th. And then I do college also. So I have a lot of the knowledge. So typically when there's an issue, it's usually a very small disconnect per se. So I've been able to just kind of sit with them and kind of discuss and then they get it, and then there's no need. Now, if they're, if that happened and there was I had completely wrongfully gauged where they were, and I have them in 5th and they're not ready for 5th, I completely put them back down. Okay. I don't just jump, so I make sure that wherever they're supposed to be, that's where they are. But, bringing it back down, no, because I don't want them to get discouraged either,
Fair.
And so that's why I don't do that. I just go over it with them.
Okay. And you have, I don't want to say an advantage because I don't want to make parents feel like they're at a disadvantage necessarily, exactly. But with your education background, you have that capability to independently work with them. And I know a lot of parents feel very frustrated if it's a concept that they don't themselves understand. They don't want to have to be put in a position to try to teach or reinforce something that they don't understand. So that flexibility, and I know many parents, I did this throughout the years homeschooling as well, the ability not just for students to go above or below, kind of bounce around, but as parents, we can set each subject at a different grade level, which is another key kind of way to keep them engaged. If they're excelling in language arts, they're going to be bored at 5th grade language arts. Go ahead and bump them up but keep them at that 5th grade math so it's not too difficult.
That's what you were asking. Oh, yes.
Well, no, it was two separate questions. So the
Okay.
setting each subject by grade level is a little bit different than giving students that independent ability to bounce around.
I got it. Yeah.
So you do
my
set
daughter,
each subject?
Yes. So like my own daughter, for instance, she is in a whole grade level above in math. So
Okay.
like she flew through it, the math section. And so she's actually like in 3rd grade, everything else is 3rd grade, but math is 4th grade. And she's going through that. So I do like that too. Like what you're saying, because that's nice that you can have that flexibility to be able literally to assign whatever grade for the subjects that you want.
Definitely. And
yeah,
kids like adults, if we're bored, we're not engaged.
Absolutely.
We're not focused,
Yes.
and if we're too challenged and we're discouraged, the end result is the same. There's
Yes.
no engagement, whether it's frustration or boredom.
Yes.
It's so important to keep them kind of with you and
Absolutely.
in that learning moment. How has the way that you've used Time for Learning evolved since the pandemic, both with your students and with your own daughters? So are you seeing, because you mentioned that you started back when schools first initially went in lockdown. A
Yes.
lot of families, they didn't really think that it would be that long. Then it came to end of the school year. So we had a lot of families who were really trying to just stay on top of things for the summer. And then when schools did start to reopen, kind of everything went wonky again, depending on where people were located. So have you found that when you first jumped into homeschooling and using Time for Learning in March, has that evolved, changed or adapted to what's kind of been going on with the pandemic? Do you find that you're still using the platform the same? Are you able to focus on any, I guess maybe a good way to word this would be, initially, were you using it kind of as a skill building tool rather than a complete curriculum? And now maybe you've kind of shifted into using it more as a core program versus a skill builder.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I can say that I have more students that are using it as a full curriculum than as a skill builder now.
Okay.
But I do have because my facility is kind of a new idea for Florida where I am. Other states have it. But the whole like private homeschool thing isn't really big down here yet.
Yeah.
It's getting, so with this idea of having this completely independent learning, that this is what I get paid for, they come and they want what they want. If you want your kid to be learning this with this side of religion, you got it. If you don't want that taught at all, you got it. You get to be what's the word? You get to be the captain of your child's learning, so like you decide and I respect it, whatever it is. So with that, I have kids that are on this curriculum full time. This is their full curriculum. We go through all of it. And then I have kids that maybe they're getting the religious side. And then because of that, they have, they use less of some of the actual curriculum. So maybe they don't hit history and science because they want that, they want that taught
with their own.
Yes, exactly. So things like that. So yeah, I use it for everything. Like really, there's nothing that it can't be used for outside of like PE, like things like that you need extra. You can do whatever you want. And so that's what's great. And you don't have to pay this insane amount if you just need a piece of it, like no matter what, you're paying
it's really affordable.
Right. And I think that's the biggest key there, is that it's affordable. I have parents that have come to me and they were on these curriculums that cost them thousands of dollars every year, and their kid was learning nothing. And they were lost and it was hard, like too hard. And then they were frustrated, and those kids, didn't want to do anything. So there's a lot out there. And I know Time for Learning is not the only curriculum, that's probably good. It's the best I have found personally. And I'm sticking with it, because
I've been using it since 2007. So I'm right there with you. So as much as I graduated one child. Exactly. And we're constantly making improvements. So I wanted to ask you, homeschoolers, since the pandemic started, we're hearing a lot about learning pods, which is a new phrase for, I think, most of us. How would you say, I mean, are you familiar with these pods? Would you say that your practice is similar to a pod? How do you differ from a pod, if at all? You may consider yourself like just a larger scale learning pod. You just don't say learning pod because you have incorporated a business. But would you say, are you similar or different? How that might be different if you are?
I guess you could say it's similar. I would say that the stability of having an actual facility is better. So people know coming here, this pod is not just going to close down one day. This pod is here. It's remaining because this is a business. So this is something that isn't going to leave. So in this regard, the actual idea, I mean, having a teacher, which is in a pod as well, and having a small group of kids in that regard, yeah, that's very close.
But the key difference is that stability.
Yeah, the stability. And then, I'm not sure what some pods do. I know they're all different, but in regards to the fact that we have outside learning, we have PE, we add art, we have an art instructor that comes in, we have music. We have everything. So we're like an all-in-one. It's literally a private school on a smaller scale, you know?
So I know that you use the platform with students ranging from grades kindergarten all the way through 12th. Can you give us some feedback that you've received from students at each of those grade bands, elementary, middle, and high school?
So my elementary kids all parents are very happy with it. Like I said, the only thing that I ever came across was making sure that you supplement reading. Like I said, it's no fault on the curriculum. It's that, and I'm a reading instructor, so I know I can say this. No matter what, if you do not practice, that amount of lessons is not going to be enough, and I know because my daughter is 5. So we're going through this right now, my younger daughter, and you have to, and she's on the program, but we have leveled books as well. And she has a chart and she gets to go through. And when level A is done, you got a prize, and then you're moving on to level B, and you're practicing on top of your curriculum, because that's in reading games, where she swats the bugs on the floor with words on them and all this stuff like that. So those kind of things are just you want to, I love technology. We're very technological here. Also, you have to make sure that you're doing things outside of technology as well. That's why I also love that you guys give, especially in the science area. I love that some of the lessons are very interactive, so that if you have maybe a parent that cannot do all these, listen, I can't even do all the science experiments that are listed, okay? But they're there, and that's what I like. So the ones that I can do, that I want to do, and the ones that a parent wants to do and can do, you can do them. And give them that opportunity to be hands-on still. That's the key.
Get really in it.
Yes. And that's why, even in this regard, that's why I said some curriculums, they don't offer that. You guys offer it at least. And it's on there, and it tells you step-by-step instruction of what to do and what you need and all this stuff like that. So it's really great in that regard, because I know that some parents, and because I have some here, they're very worried about the screen time, doing that. But I feel as long as you have a balance between the two, you're really fine. We're moving into a technological world, We
are. And I think that it's important too. A lot of parents, and I've seen this so much this year. I've been homeschooling a long time, and I've been really reaching out to homeschool families for a long time. So I see things, patterns and kind of things over traditions. I don't want to use the word stereotype, so I'll say a tradition or a pattern. One of the things that has always been, but is even more evident now because of the number of people withdrawing from school, is that kind of brain block of, well, if my kid was in school from 7:30 to 3:30, then surely that means if I'm using an online curriculum, they're going to have to be staring at the computer from 7:30 to 3:30.
Yes.
And that's a really hard misconception to kind of to break, because homeschooling, it's not 25 kids, it's not 30 kids at a time, everybody going at the same pace as one student. It's so independent and so individualized. You're going to wrap up a lot sooner. So it's the science, those are great ways to break up that screen. And it's going to incorporate so much, because the experiments, you print them off. Students need to read to be able to carry out the experiment. There's going to be math involved to a degree with measurements and, time that it takes. So though that's a great thing that you pointed out. It's loads of fun, and in that way it gives them something to do.
Oh, my students love it. Yeah, love it.
Who doesn't love getting their hands kind of
Absolutely.
messy and
That's how I
dirty?
learn.
Yeah,
That's how you learn.
absolutely.
Everyone's different,
So as the grade levels get a little bit older, it does go from those animations and those animated characters in the elementary
yes.
to the pre-recorded video instructors at the high school level. Do you have any high school students that have given you feedback? Do they feel like they can connect to that instructor even though it's not a one-on-one? Do they feel like the material is presented, like the fact that they can rewatch something if they need to because they didn't get it the first time? Do you have any students who have any thoughts about the older grade levels that are less animated?
I do. I have students in middle school and I have students in high school. Actually, some of them are here. They're working right now. But in terms of the middle school, I love when you guys updated the curriculum. Like, I was so ecstatic because I love the way it's designed. And it really takes a step. I didn't even fully answer your question before. I'm sorry. It takes
You're okay.
It takes a step when you get out of elementary into middle school to becoming like a whole different platform. And it's not difficult. It's not like it's super complicated. Like, oh boy, I had this down and now I have to learn something new. It's really not that bad. But to be able to go through the different things, I think that the way it's designed, one of the issues I had before was in middle school, them not being able to type out answers. Now it's there, so those things have now been fully incorporated, and high school is the same way. So I like that it still places videos. It still tries its best to be a little interactive. It's harder when you get into the older levels.
Sure.
Because, to have little characters running around and doing funny things is not for the high school level, obviously. But it's, I think that all things considered, it's definitely one of the top, the way it's designed. And I do like that there's electives and that you can choose, like you get 4 choices, but you can pay for more if you want more. And even with your cores, I like that they get to, just like in high school, they have a topic class per se. They have a subject, and it could be earth science, or in history, it could just be government. Like, it doesn't just say social studies. Like, well, what does that mean?
It's very focused.
Yes, it's focused. And that's what high schoolers and even middle school needs. So I like that aspect. Like, when that updated, I was like, I already loved the program, but I loved the program even more in that moment. I was thrilled. And I was like, oh, this is phenomenal.
So you tutored before the pandemic. So before you found Time4Learning, do you have students that you have maybe tutored through, that you started with before you discovered Time4Learning, and that you've then incorporated Time4Learning? Thinking about maybe those students in particular, do you know if they've given you any kind of idea of what they appreciate the most about Time4Learning and how you have used that to strengthen your tutoring strategies?
They, more than anything, they like the fact that it's interactive. They enjoy that. I think it's very important for them to be in control of, I'm not going to say, that's the wrong wording. I don't want to be in control of their learning, but I mean kind of they're navigating within guidelines their learning, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So having the ability to, for you to be in control of it, and having the responsibility. And I say, well, okay, so listen, here's your week. This is how you log in. You go to my plan. I already created it for you. You need to navigate and figure out what you need to do each day. You're going to be in control of that because it's your responsibility. My 5-year-old can do this. Okay. So it's not like something, that's like out there. Oh my gosh,
Right.
She's so mean. Like, no, it's like they can do this, and letting them get that responsibility young is really important. So yeah, like all the kids that I had, that when they moved to this, and I had homeschoolers that were on paper, and when I came in and the parent had hired me, I was like, oh boy, this is interesting. And the kids hated it. And I was like, well, no wonder you hate it. Like, this is boring. Yeah. And so, that's when I really started to delve in and try to find something. Cause I was like, there has to be better options. Like, I can only be so creative. Any teacher can only be so creative. You
only have so much time and so many resources.
Yeah.
Honestly, you only,
yes,
you only have so much time. Yes. So that is kind of an understood, but I'm glad that,
I don't like to, like even here, when I say, I'm the kind of person that I do what I'm going to say. So if I tell you I'm going to do something, or I tell you that, your child is going to learn in this way, if I don't feel like I'm fulfilling that promise, I have to figure it out, So that's why when this was happening, I was like, I got to find something. And that's why when I found this, it really helped. It helped me still be able to be that teacher, to be that tutor, but to have help, like to have a system that is helping me. So I don't need to store their records, and I don't need to, like it does it for you. And that's what I tell parents. I'm like, this is the only thing you need for homeschooling. It amazes me too, and even in Florida, how much people don't know about homeschooling and like how
Sure.
easy,
I remember I started in 2005, and I remember, it was not something that we ever had intended to do. We came to it
Yep.
completely kind of in an accidental way. And, as I was still trying to learn, I would get faced with these questions. Like, it's not some rebellious underground movement. It's
Yes,
not this
absolutely
weird, isolated thing. Homeschoolers, it's a kind of a running joke in the homeschool community and with even curriculum providers. What's the hardest part about homeschooling? We say it's staying at home, because you have this time and this flexibility to when it's not a pandemic, I should say, to do these field trips and to do these things. So yeah, it's easy to see, to say that you have to learn a lot about homeschooling to homeschool, because I think most people are still kind of stuck in those misconceptions.
Yes.
So speaking of your children specifically, has their perception of learning, of what education means to them, changed since you started Time4Learning and started homeschooling? Have their ideas or...
Can you repeat that one more time?
Absolutely. So their perception of learning and of education, how has that changed for them since you started using Time4Learning and homeschooling them? Do they think is it more fun? Is it, do they miss the classroom? Do they feel like they're learning more in a less amount of time? Do they feel like they're missing out on anything? Has their perception changed at all since you started using Time4Learning and homeschooling?
Yes, they love it. Initially, my older daughter didn't like it. She's the social butterfly. So she likes all her friends, and she likes to be, in class. She likes to be a little bit of a class clown. So those kind of things, she was upset. She's going to be missing that, So, my kids were very excited about mommy opening a school. That was one thing they were super excited about. But at the same time, they were in that regard a little hesitant. But for my younger daughter, what I was happy about is she never knew anything else. So for her, this is normal, and I had to really think about that initially, because she didn't get the kindergarten experience. Now she wasn't VPK in preschool.
Mm-hmm.
So she had that, and she did really well in that regard. But outside of that, it's all she knew, so coming into this has been a much easier transition for her, the younger one. The older one has been a little harder. So she, at this point, is more adjusted. In the beginning, it was a little bit harder. They were using this for supplementing before. Now they were moving to it full time. So in that regard, it was an adjustment, like I was saying. So
yeah, of course.
She's definitely better. She's better now. And then, the more students that come too, it feels more like a school, which I kept telling her, I was like, more kids will come. When they come, it will feel like a school, and then it will be no different. And you can still try to be the class clown, it's so things like that where, she wasn't missing out. But yeah, now that we have more students, I can see that's totally shifted. So it had nothing to do with the curriculum. It just had to do with the setting of having more kids. That's all.
Yeah, that's hard too. I mean, and for many who came to homeschooling about the same time that your kids did, there was no period of time to adjust to this classroom to home kind of thing. It was a Friday to a Monday of, hey,
Yeah.
Schools are closed, so we're going to do this virtual thing on Monday. And it kind of just stayed. So, kids, parents, teachers, nobody had that opportunity to go, okay, so this is the step that we're going to take. So I think that it helped a little bit, for those who when the decision came in August, September to either re-enroll or stay home, I think
Mm,
by then they had those few months to adjust and kind of acclimate, but it could be hard for kids and
yes,
parents to all of a
for
sudden
sure.
be at home. So this is our final question. What is your number one piece of advice for parents thinking about transitioning to homeschool? Because we know that it can be such a scary thing. If you had just one thing that you could tell parents who are considering it, what would you tell them?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Just do it. Like Nike, just do it.
Just
You know what? I was a public school teacher. I came out of the system, and I'm not going to badmouth any system. But what
Sure.
what I will say is there is no way that this compares to anything else. There's just no way. And you can see, like, listen, and I understand it's not affordable for some people. Facilities like mine are not affordable for some people. I get that. And, and I try to give as many scholarships as I can as well. I try because I get that. Not everyone can afford a tutor, things like that. So there are some people, it may just not be an option, but for those that it is an option, I'm telling you, like, it's better for your child. It's better for them all around. It's better for them to have any kind of individualized learning over being in a classroom of 20 to 30 children and maybe being held back or not taught enough. Those things, as good as some teachers may be, it's just not going to be possible for them to do that. And I know because I was there, it's just not possible. You try and you kill yourself trying to try. And so it's just something that if you want that, this is the best option. Find a curriculum that works. Most likely it will be Time4Learning. Find a curriculum that works. And if you can do it as the parent, awesome. If you can't and you can afford help, get it. But it's the best thing for them. You can still, for socialization, that's the biggest thing I hear that people are concerned about. You can still find ways to socialize, in different things, put them in soccer leagues, put them in whatever they're into.
Sure.
Gymnastics, if you can afford it, I tried that. It was quite pricey, but things like that, or like I said, like a facility like this, there are pods, whatever you can get into. But I think that whatever is best for your child all around is what you should do.
That's a great answer. I'm a huge advocate. It might not be for everybody, but if you can think even for a minute that you can make this work for your family, I like that. Just do it. At least try. That's the great thing is, you don't have to commit to forever. You don't have to commit to all the way through graduation. Just try. And, people like me who, when I withdrew my oldest son in first grade, it was just going to be through the end of first grade. We were going to put him back in second grade, but we didn't. We asked him at the beginning of that year, do you want to keep trying? Right. And he said yes. And he said yes every year. We asked him every year, do you want to keep trying? And he said yes until he graduated in 2017. My youngest, he's always this like your youngest. Mine's much older than your youngest, but it's all he's ever known. So, yes. There was that kind of a comfort period. So, well, thanks, Nikki, for being with us today. It was really, really nice to speak with you. And I love getting your insights. You come at it from a little bit of a different perspective, I think, than other homeschool parents that we get a chance to talk to, because in addition to homeschooling your children, you're educating others and responsible for that. So I appreciate the time that you took to speak with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And I look forward to talking to you again. I'm sure we'll speak again.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good afternoon.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
That's it for today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about our homeschooling program, please visit Time4Learning.com or email me at the address on the screen. We're happy to connect you with a wealth of information like videos, resources, and blog articles. Until next time.